Hey guys, this is the Blue Collar Future Podcast. I'm your host, Jaden Robinson, and today we've got another solo episode. On the last one, I talked about how it was hard to find guests at the moment, and the people that I've been gravitating to I've been wanting to interview more people that are actually working in the trades. When I started out, I was doing a lot of interviewing business owners, and it kind of got to a point where it seemed to be people that were trying to be coaches and people that are business owners that don't even really work in the trades anymore. Like they're out doing the work, and I didn't really like that after a while because it started to become the same type of stuff, and I wanted to appeal to more of the people that are actually out doing the work like myself. I started gravitating towards people that are on social media that are like influencers, because the reason I was interviewing so many business owners is they're the people that would want to be on a podcast to promote themselves and to do that way. People that would want to be on the podcast that are not business owners are typically along the influencer lines, where they're out doing the work, but they're also posting a lot on social media, and that's just a busy group of people. I know I'm a part of it. It's almost a full-time job just trying to run a social media page, so I totally get that. So I'm solo again. I've got quite a few people that we're trying to get schedules to line up, and it just doesn't always work out. This happened a lot last year, so I ended up doing a lot of solo episodes last year, mainly because I was busy, not because I couldn't find other people, and it was just too hard to find time in my schedule that would line up with other people's. Now it's kind of both ways. People are busy, I'm busy. It's hard to get them to line up. Anyways, we're solo today and got some cool things coming. I'm excited for where the podcast is going. We've been getting more and more interest and views, and having Jesse on the podcast is a welcome addition to kind of fresh things up. And so it doesn't feel like I'm just doing this on my own. So I had been wanting to take a co-host on for a long time, and he was eager to join with a similar mission himself. So we got some cool things coming. And today I actually wanted to discuss kind of something that we talked about in the last Q&A. And we had gotten a question from somebody that was an apprentice mason, and they weren't sure if they were on the right path, and how to know if they were on the right path. And nowadays it's really hard to know whether or not what you're doing is the right thing to do. And I want to preface this by saying that everybody has these thoughts and feelings. Doesn't matter if you're in the trades, doesn't matter if you're going to college, doesn't matter if you're a business owner. I'd say especially business owners are constantly struggling with whether or not they're on the right path, because the first few years in business are very difficult, and you have to go into a business expecting to just not make any money for a few years in order to make it longer than 3, 4, 5 years. So everybody has these thoughts and feelings. I talk to people a lot about their careers, whether they were engineers, developers, in medical occupations, whatever it is, and everybody has the same types of thoughts towards what they're doing. Nowadays, it's hard for anybody to feel like they're making enough money because the state of the world. It's hard for anybody to feel like they're doing the right thing, because there's so much to every job that is just hard and unsatisfactory and not very glorious, I guess. So it's really easy to go to work and feel mundane and feel like you're not doing the right thing. And especially if you're spending all your money and you feel like you're broke, it's really hard to feel like you're on the right path. So even more so, I would feel like it's hard nowadays to be an apprentice learning a trade right now. Everybody knows as an apprentice you do not make that much money. I mean, you're essentially putting your years of schooling in for your degree. The first 4 years, you're making money, but it's not a ton. And people are always looking at that saying, well, yeah, look at this. You don't start out making a lot of money. And That's a long time to not make that much money before you start actually seeing the benefits. But you have to also look at it from a different perspective of people who are trying to go the college route don't make any money for what they're doing for the first 4 years, and in fact they're spending money. So if you look at that, you're already ahead of what people are doing that way, even if you don't make much to begin with. So it's hard to feel like you're on the right path at that point. And life is hard. I see things a lot online, like tragedies in people's lives. I mean, I saw something that's local that people would know about, the Lori Daybell case, and also there was a missing kid. I'm struggling to remember his name right now, but he was murdered out in the very west edge of Utah by the border. I mean, I see these tragedies all the time. Murders, accidental deaths being on the job sites or car accidents or whatever. People with diseases and cancer, and people going through bankruptcies that are losing their homes. It seems like nowadays all of that is very widely perpetuated and just serves to add more confusion and struggle to the day-to-day. Because when you are living life with this note in the back of your head that there's so much tragedy going on around you, and you're focusing on that, it's really hard to feel like you're on the right path and focus on the here and now and what you can control. The best we can do, no matter what your situation is keep moving forward, focus on everything that you have, the good, and have a plan for the future and move ahead with it. Chase after it, because no matter what step of the path you're on, from what I've seen, you will have the doubts, the worries, the concerns that you're not doing the right thing. Whether you're 50 years old with 30 years under your belt at a company and a bunch of kids that are essentially grown up and move out, like essentially everybody in that position is the same way. They have doubts, concerns, worries about the state of the world, about what they're doing with their life, whether or not they made the right choices. The best thing you can do is to move forward and do what you love, and just commit yourself to it 100%. It's easy to get disheartened with all of this going on around us. It's easy to feel like you're not making it anywhere, but just want everybody listening to know that nobody has it any better. I have a lot of friends and family that took different routes than I did, that are tech jobs, university, college jobs. Like, they are also not sure if they're on the right path. And nobody right now can seem to afford to buy a home. That's an interesting fact at the moment, where it seems like nobody can afford to get into a house, especially if you're younger, at the start of your career, starting out a family. It's harder than to get into a house when the house prices are 200% of what they should be or used to be, comparatively speaking, and interest rates are high. Nobody can afford to get into a house. It doesn't matter how much money you make. It doesn't matter what you do. Nobody can afford to get into a house. And starter homes right now in the U.S. seem to be built to a second home level standard, where you're buying a house that's big enough for a second step in life. I live in a community with smaller sized homes that are more specific, that are more a starter home size, and most people in the neighborhood are on a second home. They are on their, they had their first home that was kind of an older home, smaller home when they were starting out, and then they sold, had quite a bit of money in, and bought a home in here that is starter home level. But obviously nowadays it is hard to get into anything. It's easy to see how anybody can be discouraged in this moment. But I assure everybody here, everybody's discouraged, disheartened by what's going on right now. And it doesn't matter what you're doing. These trials that happen, that everybody's going through, are designed to make us into who we can be. And if you can make it through these things, you can look back on the other side and realize how much you've grown and accomplished. And it's easy to see how everybody can be unsure no matter what path they're on. One thing I will add too is social media nowadays has connected us so much to the rest of the world. I feel like we were never meant to, or rather we haven't evolved essentially to be able to handle this much information and connection to this many people so fast. So, imagine even 20 years ago, you didn't have the ability to as easily see so much information and talk to so many people across the world as we do today. And I feel like that is just making the problem even worse, especially because 100% of the information that you see on social media is false, not true. And what I mean by that is it's not the full truth, because everything you see on social media is all the good and fabricated from people's minds to try to look appealing. And so, you have right now this situation where everyone feels disheartened because of the state of the world and because everything's expensive. And it's always hard, no matter what the world situation is, to know if you're on the right path. And this is a topic that I explore pretty regularly, talking to people around me on how they knew what they wanted to do and stuff. And it's always hard for people to know what they want to do, because you're talking about doing a career, working in a career for the rest of your life. As a young kid, it's hard to sign up for something like that. But we're talking about right now it's already hard. The state of the world and how expensive everything is making it harder. And the fact that we are all so connected on social media, and so many people share only good information on social media, that you can look at that and immediately get discouraged, because you can sit there and compare yourself to people and say, man, look at where they are. I'm not anywhere near that. I don't know if this is the right thing for me to do. But the only problem with that is you're comparing yourself with them, but only the good parts about their situation. You're not comparing your situation with theirs in how long they've been at doing what they've been doing, how much they struggled to get there, how many years and years it took to get to that point, what decisions they made to get to that point. Right now, people that are doing well had bought houses. People that are in homes right now mostly were already in homes, years ago, 5-6 years ago, before COVID and things started to take a turn for the worst there. People that are doing well and in a home and all of that, and for the most part, have been in for a while. They're not buying houses right now and being really well off. Anybody who's getting into a home right now is struggling a little bit. But you can look at people who are in homes right now and say, oh man, I can't afford it. I don't know how they're doing it. They seem to be doing good. But nobody wants to share how hard it is. They only want to share the good behind their situation. So you are comparing yourself with a version of them that is only including the good. And so we are not designed to be so connected to people, especially not when everybody's information is falsified. The best we can do is figure out how to enjoy what we do, plan for the future, and focus on the good in your life. This kind of goes back to what we keep coming back to on the podcast is being present, right? So social media has a way of taking you out of your situation and putting you into other people's shoes, but only from that good perspective. And it's it makes it even easier and even harder, even easier to get disheartened and harder to feel like you're making headway in your life. Am I doing the right thing? They're saying you can't be successful in trade work. They're saying you need to go to college. AI is going to take over. All of these questions and concerns start to come up. The best thing you can do is to focus on what you have and move forward, and like with a single-minded obsession and focus on the future. And I'm saying all of this also to remind myself, because that's also hard for me to remember. It's hard for anybody to remember at any point in time. Decide what makes you successful and happy. If you feel like you're successful and you're happy with your situation, then that's all you need. Seriously, that's all you need. People get into trouble because they do not think they're successful. They have not decided what makes them successful, so they feel the need to be buying all the new fancy stuff, getting all of the new vehicles to keep up with the Joneses, having to have this big fancy nice house, end up essentially signing themselves away into debt, and keeping that cycle going of being unsure if they're on the right path and making life hard for themselves. Everybody on every path has the same feelings, no matter how much money they make. You know, when I started the podcast, a lot of it was because I started talking to people. I realized that people in trades make just as much money as anybody else without college degrees, but people who have college degrees are not any better off, because we have this, like, even if you happen to make more money, like let's say you're a doctor, you're a high level engineer, whatever, with years and years of experience, and you make hundreds of thousands of dollars. What I've found and seen is these people spend every penny of what they make most of the time. That was something that interested me when I started the podcast, is I would talk to people that they would see like finances for people making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and these people wouldn't have any savings, living paycheck to paycheck, because they've got all of these loans and on cars and boats and homes and all of this stuff. And it's like, how much stuff do you need? How much stuff do you actually need? All of that is just making life hard, but we somehow have this idea in the back of our head that makes us spend money to show that we have money, and then that just keeps this cycle going. It's like, you don't have any money, so you think you're not successful, and you're not sure if you're on the right path, doing the right thing. Everybody in every situation has the same thoughts and feelings. It doesn't matter if you're in trades, college, if you're at the end of your career. It doesn't matter what's going on, everybody has the same things. So if you're in the trades and you're an apprentice, you're just starting out, not feeling like you're doing that great, just know that everybody is in the same boat, and best thing you can do is keep moving forward and decide why you're doing what you're doing, and figure out what is going to make you successful. Figure out what your definition of successful is and chase that. And don't worry about what everybody else is thinking, because at the end of the day, if you are chasing after something, you become passionate about what you're doing, and you just are mindful of everything that you're doing, opportunities will arise, you'll be happier, and you won't find yourself falling into this trap of this constant nagging sensation of, am I doing the right thing? I don't know if this is the right path for me. I love that. If you follow along with this thought process of mine, I appreciate it. Appreciate everybody that has been following along with the podcast, and appreciate all the support. When I started this, I didn't really expect it to even last as long as it has, and that's been really cool. It's been, another thing for me to do to express my thoughts, and I had a interesting background of growing up in the trades and going to college for engineering, and because that's just what you do, and kind of realizing that I don't really mind the trades, and then I started to realize I liked it, and I started getting good. That's when I felt like I was on the right path. When I started to like it, and when I started to decide what makes me successful, when I started becoming invested in what I was doing, started becoming good at what I was doing. I started to get a passion for it, and I didn't ever feel like that was going to happen in an engineering job or in a development job, a software development job that I was kind of moving towards. And the interesting part about me is I actually enjoyed the college, and sometimes I want to go back, and not even because I want to use a degree. I just want to go back to finish what I started because I was pretty close to finishing. But all of that came around the time where I realized that I liked what I do, and I used to not. And I always used to be concerned if I'm on the right path, and I still have those thoughts every once in a while. But when I started to take control of my situation and realize I liked what I do and started talking about it and focusing on my own situation rather than trying to keep up with what everybody else is doing, it's when I felt like when I really felt like I was on the right path, doing the right thing. So appreciate everybody that's followed along with this journey, and we'll be back again next week with another topic episode with Jesse, and we will have a guest episode for the next one as of right now. So anyways, appreciate it, and we will see you guys all